For decades, NASA set the pace of space exploration, but now a new spacecraft from China is rewriting the rules. Built with next-generation propulsion, reusable systems, and AI-assisted navigation, this futuristic vessel could shift the balance of power beyond Earth's orbit. Some analysts say it marks the beginning of a new space race, and this time, the outcome may surprise everyone. Join us as we discover how China's new spacecraft surpassed NASA and changed the future of space forever. Let's go.
Number 12. Mars Colony Plan. While other countries still debate budgets, China already has dates. Humans on Mars by 2033 and a permanent colony by 2040. This isn't propaganda. It's not a dream. It's a space program with money, engineers, and working prototypes. Their plan includes underground habitats built with Martian sand using 3D printing, compact nuclear reactors for continuous energy, life support systems that recycle 98% of water, local oxygen production using Martian ice, space greenhouses already tested in orbit, and autonomous robots for exploration and construction. But the most disturbing part comes with artificial intelligence. It makes decisions when signals take 20 minutes to reach for Mars. This means China is designing a settlement that functions without direct human supervision, a first step toward completely self-sufficient colonies. The 3D printing technology uses Martian regolith mixed with binding polymers to create structures harder than concrete. They've tested it in simulated Martian conditions, and the habitats hold pressure, resist radiation, and maintain temperature without constant energy input. The nuclear reactors are small enough to fit in a spacecraft, but powerful enough to run an entire base. Kilopower-style systems that can operate for decades without refueling. Energy independence on Mars isn't optional, it's survival. Water recycling at 98% efficiency means a colony could operate almost indefinitely with minimal resupply from Earth. Every drop of water gets used, cleaned, and reused in a closed-loop system. Waste becomes drinking water, becomes oxygen, becomes waste again, in a continuous cycle. If China plants the first flag, they can claim zones rich in ice, minerals, and energy resources. Current space laws aren't prepared to stop that. The Outer Space Treaty says no nation can claim celestial bodies, but it doesn't address what happens when you build a functioning colony and start extracting resources. Experts are clear. The race to Mars is no longer scientific, it's geopolitical. Whoever establishes permanent presence first sets the precedent for property rights, resource extraction, and governance beyond Earth. China isn't racing to visit Mars, they're racing to own it. The robots being developed for Mars construction use AI that learns from the environment, adapts to unexpected conditions, and coordinates with other robots without human input.
A swarm of construction bots could build an entire base while humans are still in transit from Earth. Number 11. Beidou Navigation Satellite System. GPS belongs to the US military. They run it, they control it, and they can shut off civilian access whenever they want. China looked at that situation and said absolutely not. So they built Beidou, a completely independent global navigation system. 35 satellites in orbit providing positioning accuracy down to centimeters. It covers the entire planet with the same precision as GPS, but without depending on American infrastructure or goodwill. Beidou integration is mandatory in Chinese smartphones, cars, ships, and aircraft. Over 1.5 billion devices already use it. The system provides navigation, timing synchronization for financial networks, precision agriculture, autonomous vehicles, and military operations that don't rely on potentially hostile foreign satellites. But here's where it gets interesting. Beidou works better than GPS in the Asia-Pacific region because China positioned extra satellites over that area. More satellites mean better accuracy, faster position fixes, and redundancy if some satellites go offline. The system includes a unique feature, short message communication. Users can send text messages through Beidou satellites when cell networks are down. Disaster zones, remote oceans, mountain ranges, anywhere without cellular coverage can still communicate through navigation satellites. China offers Beidou access to Belt and Road countries at discounted rates, creating technological dependency that translates into geopolitical leverage. Countries using Beidou for critical infrastructure become economically and strategically tied to China's space program. The military applications are obvious: precision-guided weapons, drone navigation, troop coordination, all running on satellites that China controls completely. No risk of GPS being shut off during a conflict. Total strategic autonomy. And the timing is perfect. China completed Beidou's global coverage in 2020, right as the world was realizing how dependent they'd become on American GPS. Now there's an alternative, and it's controlled by Beijing. I'm going to ask you a simple question. Are you a naturally curious person? If you're watching, I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. This space is made for people like us. To ensure you're always part of this community and receive all our latest discoveries, you just need to do one thing: subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to stay connected with us. Okay, now that you're part of our Legion of the Curious, let's move on to the next item. Number 10. Quakiao Relay Satellite System. Nobody talks about the most boring-sounding technology that makes everything else possible: relay satellites. China built Quakiao, and it's sitting at a point in space where gravity from Earth and Moon balance out perfectly. Just floating there, doing the one job that makes landing on the far side of the Moon actually work. Here's the thing about the Moon's far side. It's called far for a reason. Earth can't see it. Radio signals can't reach it. If you land there, you're completely cut off unless you have a relay satellite positioned exactly right. China figured this out and launched Quakiao before Chang'e 4 landed. The satellite parks itself at the Earth-Moon L2 Lagrange point, about 65,000 kilometers beyond the Moon. From there, it can see both Earth and the lunar far side simultaneously. Messages from rovers and landers bounce off Quakiao back to Earth. Simple concept, insanely difficult execution. Western space agencies had the math for decades, but never bothered building one because they weren't planning far-side missions. China built it because they knew exactly where they were going and what they needed to get there. That's strategic planning that puts NASA's committee-driven approach to shame. Quakiao uses a large parabolic antenna that unfolds in space like an umbrella. The antenna is so sensitive it can pick up signals from small rovers on the lunar surface and relay them across hundreds of thousands of kilometers without losing data. But here's what makes it brilliant. Quakiao isn't just for one mission, it's infrastructure. Chang'e 4 used it, Chang'e 6 used it, future missions will use it. China built the space equivalent of a cell phone tower, and now they own the only network coverage on the Moon's far side. The satellite carries enough fuel to maintain its position for years, constantly making tiny adjustments to stay in the sweet spot where it can see both Earth and the Moon's far side. That kind of precision station keeping requires autonomous systems that calculate and execute burns without waiting for commands from Earth. And China already launched Quakiao 2, an upgraded version with more bandwidth and better coverage. They're building redundancy into their lunar communication network before anyone else even has a primary system operational.
Number 9. Shuntian Space Telescope. Hubble Space Telescope is iconic. James Webb is revolutionary. But China is building Shuntian, and the specs are absolutely wild. It's got a field of view 300 times larger than Hubble while maintaining similar resolution. 300 times. Shuntian means surveying the heavens, and that's exactly what it'll do. The telescope will orbit alongside Tiangong Space Station, occasionally docking for maintenance and upgrades. No need for risky servicing missions. Astronauts can just bring it into the station and fix it. The mirror is 2 meters in diameter, comparable to Hubble, but the wide field camera can image huge swaths of sky at once. It'll map the entire visible universe in unprecedented detail, cataloging billions of galaxies, tracking asteroids, studying dark matter distribution, and searching for exoplanets. Launch is scheduled for 2024-2025, and when it goes up, China will have observation capabilities that complement Western telescopes, while covering areas of research nobody else is prioritizing. They're not competing directly with James Webb. They're filling gaps in cosmic observation that NASA hasn't addressed. The telescope uses advanced adaptive optics that correct for distortions in real time. Even though it's in space and doesn't deal with atmospheric interference, tiny vibrations and thermal expansion still affect image quality. Shuntian systems compensate automatically. What makes it strategically important is the data. China will have their own comprehensive map of the universe, independent of Western databases. Astronomical catalogs become scientific assets. Access to data becomes leverage in international collaborations. The ability to dock with Tiangong means Shuntian can receive new instruments, upgraded cameras, and better sensors as technology improves.
It's designed for a 10-year mission, but could operate for decades with regular maintenance. Western astronomers are quietly excited about Shuntian data, even though nobody says it publicly. More telescopes with different capabilities mean more discoveries. Science benefits when multiple countries have independent observation platforms. But the strategic autonomy it gives China is what keeps defense analysts up at night.
Number 8. Asteroid Mining Research Program. China's space program isn't subtle about their intentions. They want to mine asteroids for profit. And they're not waiting for international frameworks or private companies to figure it out. Government-funded research is already designing the equipment. The target asteroids are near-Earth objects rich in platinum, gold, rare earth elements, and water. Some asteroids contain more platinum than has ever been mined on Earth. A single metal-rich asteroid could be worth trillions of dollars. Chinese researchers are developing spacecraft capable of landing on asteroids, drilling into their surface, and extracting material. The technology overlaps heavily with lunar mining equipment, so every test on the Moon advances their asteroid mining capabilities. The plan involves robotic missions first, testing extraction techniques on small asteroids before scaling up to larger operations. By 2030, China aims to return samples from a near-Earth asteroid. By 2040, they want commercial-scale mining operations running. Water extracted from asteroids becomes rocket fuel through electrolysis. Metals get refined in space using solar furnaces. Both products support space industrialization without launching material from Earth. It's a closed-loop economy operating entirely off-planet. International space law is vague about asteroid mining. The Outer Space Treaty says nations can't claim celestial bodies, but it doesn't clearly address resource extraction. China's position is simple. If we get there first and mine it, we own what we extract. The economic implications are massive. Flooding Earth's markets with asteroid platinum could crash prices and destroy mining industries. Or China could control the supply, creating artificial scarcity and dictating prices. Either way, they win. This isn't science fiction speculation. The spacecraft designs exist. The mining equipment is in development. Budget allocations are public. China is treating asteroid mining like any other industrial project. Plan it, fund it, build it, profit from it.
Number 7. Long March 9 rocket. The Long March 9 isn't a rocket, it's a declaration of power wrapped in 140 tons of payload capacity to low Earth orbit. That number beats even the legendary Saturn V that took humans to the Moon. But here's the part that destroys all competition. It's fully reusable and can do it up to 50 times. 24 methane and liquid oxygen engines on the first stage generate 6,000 tons of thrust, enough to launch complete space stations, lunar modules, military constellations, heavy classified payloads, and thanks to its orbital refueling system, it can refuel in space, just floating up there, tanking up like a cosmic gas station, ready for the next mission. China plans to use it for building lunar bases, transporting Martian colonies, filling the sky with their own satellites, and conducting deep missions without depending on the United States. But what really worries the West is the launch frequency, 1 per week. Think about that, 52 launches per year. Every single week, another massive payload going up. That would allow China to deploy entire armies of military satellites in record time. Starlink took years to build its constellation. China could match it in months with this beast. When this rocket flies in 2030, the space balance ceases to exist. The current launch market gets completely disrupted. SpaceX charges millions per launch. China could undercut everyone while maintaining strategic independence. They wouldn't need to sell launches. They just use them for national priorities. The engineering behind reusability at this scale is insane. Catching a 140-ton rocket booster, refurbishing it, and launching again within weeks requires precision that makes Formula One pit stops look slow. China claims they can do it 50 times per booster. If true, the cost per kilogram to orbit drops so low that space industrialization becomes economically viable. And here's the kicker. The Long March 9 uses methane fuel, which can potentially be produced on Mars. That means this rocket isn't just for Earth to orbit. It's designed for the interplanetary logistics chain China is planning for the 2040s. NASA's SLS costs over $4 billion per launch and isn't reusable. Long March 9 could launch for a fraction of that cost, dozens of times per year, carrying more payload. The math isn't competitive. It's devastating. Number 6. Chinese Space Elevator Project. Look, while the world was arguing about electric cars and AI, China decided to build something that sounds like pure science fiction, an elevator to space. Not a metaphor, a real elevator. A giant tower that starts on an ocean platform, goes through the atmosphere, and connects directly to space like it's the most natural thing in the world. The Beijing Institute of Aeronautical Materials already produces carbon nanotubes in functional prototypes. These things are 200 times stronger than aerospace steel. 200 times. It's the kind of material that makes engineers wake up at 3 a.m. just to run calculations again because they can't believe what they're seeing. Here's what freaks everyone out. This elevator would send satellites without rockets, transport tons of cargo on an orbital belt, cut space access costs by 95%, and create a vertical highway with continuous traffic. Rockets? Who needs rockets when you have a cosmic elevator running 24/7? Chinese engineers are already modeling how it would resist storms, extreme winds, and vibrations. They're testing anchoring mechanisms, simulating tensions, and producing complete sections of orbital cable. And get this, they're the only country on Earth actually close to building it. The implications hit different when you realize what this means. China would control who enters and exits the planet, not through military force, not through sanctions, through infrastructure. They'd own the door to space. NASA can launch fancy rockets all day long, but if China builds this thing first, everyone else is playing a different game entirely. The structure would be so massive that weather systems would have to be recalculated around it, ocean currents monitored in real time. The engineering challenges alone would require breakthroughs in material science that don't exist yet anywhere else in the world. And while SpaceX celebrates reusable rockets, China is thinking about making rockets themselves obsolete. That's not competition. That's a complete paradigm shift. When this thing becomes operational, humanity will go to space like taking an elevator to the top floor. The future just showed up early, and it speaks Mandarin. Number 5. Tianwen-1 Mars mission. May 2021. China lands a rover on Mars on their first try. First attempt. Let that sink in. NASA took multiple missions and decades to perfect Mars landing. Soviet Union tried 19 times before giving up. China just casually sticks the landing like they've been doing it for years. The Tianwen-1 mission included an orbiter, lander, and rover all in one package. The orbiter maps Mars from above. The lander survived the infamous 7 minutes of terror entry sequence. The Zhurong rover rolls around Utopia Planitia, analyzing soil and taking photos. But the audacity of doing it all at once on the first mission is what shook everyone. Most countries start with orbiters, then maybe attempt a lander years later if the budget allows. China bundled everything together and executed flawlessly. The Zhurong rover is solar-powered, designed to last 90 Martian days, but still operating way beyond that. It carries ground-penetrating radar that can see 100 meters below the surface, looking for water ice and analyzing soil composition layer by layer. What freaked out planetary scientists is how much data came back. High-resolution photos, detailed mineral analysis, evidence of ancient water activity. Everything you'd expect from a mature Mars exploration program, except this was mission number 1. The landing site selection showed sophisticated understanding of Martian geology. Utopia Planitia is a massive impact basin where ancient oceans might have existed. The flat terrain made landing safer, but the scientific potential made it worth the risk. China published all the technical details about how they nailed the landing: heat shield deployment, parachute sequence, retro rockets, and the final touchdown. They basically wrote a masterclass in Mars entry, descent, landing and handed it to the world for free. And here's the kicker. While NASA's Perseverance rover cost $2.7 billion, China did Tianwen-1 for about $600 million. Same year, same planet, 1/5 the budget. Results that rival anything NASA achieved.
Number 4. Tiangong Space Station. Tiangong doesn't play by the same rules as other space stations. While the International Space Station depends on a patchwork of international cooperation and constant resupply missions, China built something that functions like a living organism in orbit. 180 tons of pure engineering with capacity for 6 astronauts living in conditions that actually surpass the ISS in several key areas. The life support system recycles 95% of water without loss. Oxygen gets generated through advanced electrolysis. Biological filters replicate terrestrial ecosystems in microgravity. They're growing fresh food up there. In space, fresh vegetables floating around while the station orbits Earth every 90 minutes. But here's where it gets wild. The AI running Tiangong predicts failures before they happen. It optimizes resources, controls temperature, energy, and airflow, adjusts orbital navigation algorithms autonomously. This station doesn't wait for Houston to tell it what to do. It thinks for itself. The laboratories inside are researching materials impossible to manufacture on Earth, medicines that only work in zero gravity, seeds resistant enough for lunar agriculture, alloys for space engines that would collapse under Earth's gravity. Every experiment up there is designed for a future where humans live permanently off-planet. And Tiangong keeps growing. New modules are already designed. Hotels, laboratories, manufacturing centers, even green spaces in orbit. China didn't create a space station. They created a prototype for a space city, the blueprint for orbital civilization. NASA had to ask Russia for rides to the ISS for years. China just built their own and made it smarter. The station can expand indefinitely, adding sections like Lego blocks in the cosmos. Each new module brings different capabilities, different research potential, different ways to establish permanent human presence in space. What makes Western space agencies nervous isn't just the technology, it's the speed. China went from zero human spaceflight experience to operating the most advanced autonomous space station in just 3 decades. That acceleration curve doesn't slow down, it compounds. Tiangong proves something uncomfortable for traditional space powers. You don't need international partnerships when you have the resources, determination, and technological base to do it yourself.
And once you're up there independently, you write your own rules about what comes next. Number 3. Chang'e 6 Lunar Mission. The far side of the moon always was a mystery. Nobody had managed to bring samples from that forbidden territory until China did it. The Chang'e 6 mission was an engineering demonstration that left NASA and Roscosmos in absolute shock. It landed in the Apollo crater, one of the most difficult locations on the satellite, drilled 2 meters below the surface, extracted intact regolith, took off from the moon, docked in orbit with a return module, brought the material back to Earth with surgical precision, each step harder than the last, all executed flawlessly. What that material revealed will change the planet's energy future. They found helium-3, the perfect fuel for fusion reactors, a non-polluting energy source, stable, with performance thousands of times superior to uranium, capable of supplying entire countries. One small container of helium-3 could power a city for a year. The moon has billions of tons of it, just sitting there in the regolith, waiting to be harvested. China now knows exactly where the richest deposits are located because they went there and brought samples home. Now comes the critical part. China is mapping lunar deposits and planning Chang'e 7 and 8 missions to explore water and build infrastructure. They're not just visiting the moon, they're preparing to mine it. The far side of the moon is geologically different from the near side. Older rock formations, different mineral compositions, and potentially higher concentrations of rare elements. Chang'e 6 brought back data that will guide industrial lunar operations for decades. Western space agencies are realizing they missed the window. While they debated budgets and international partnerships, China just went and grabbed the samples. First mover advantage in space resources isn't symbolic. It's billions of tons of materials that could fuel the next century of human civilization. The return capsule landed in Inner Mongolia with samples that universities and research institutes are still analyzing. Every grain of lunar dust contains information about solar wind exposure, cosmic radiation, and the moon's geological history. But more importantly, it contains answers about how to extract, process, and use lunar resources. Number 2. Guowang Satellite Constellation. Starlink changed global communications, but China is planning something 3 times larger and significantly more dangerous. The Guowang constellation will be the most extensive satellite network ever created. 13,000 low-orbit satellites controlled exclusively by the Chinese government.
These aren't simple signal repeaters. Each satellite includes ion thrusters for autonomous maneuvers, AI for orbital traffic management, capacity to provide global high-speed internet, military communications impossible to intercept, quantum links that can't be hacked, and sensors for real-time global tracking. But here's the most disturbing part. They can approach enemy satellites and push them out of orbit without firing a single shot. Many analysts consider Guowang not just communications infrastructure, but a distributed anti-satellite network disguised as civilian technology. China plans to launch up to 60 satellites per week, filling the sky with their own digital architecture, a system that could make Western networks obsolete, control the global flow of data, block communications from entire countries, guide hypersonic weapons in real time, and monitor maritime, aerial, and space routes. The orbital real estate is getting crowded fast. Every satellite China launches is one less orbital slot available for competitors, and with 13,000 units planned, they're essentially claiming huge chunks of low Earth orbit through sheer volume. Western intelligence agencies are sweating because Guowang satellites can do something terrifying: coordinate. They talk to each other using AI mesh networks that don't rely on ground stations. Even if you take out the control center, the constellation keeps operating autonomously. The quantum communication links are unhackable with current technology. China could run military operations coordinated through Guowang, and the NSA couldn't intercept the signals. That's a strategic advantage that changes everything about modern warfare and intelligence gathering. If this deploys completely, China won't just dominate space. They'll control the information flowing through it. Every email, every transaction, every communication that touches their network could be monitored, analyzed, or blocked at will. Digital sovereignty backed by orbital infrastructure.
Number 1. Lunar soil 3D printing tests. China took lunar soil samples and started printing bricks with them. Not metaphorical bricks, actual construction material strong enough to build habitats on the moon. The Chinese Academy of Sciences developed a process that uses simulated lunar regolith mixed with binding agents to create building blocks. They tested it in simulated lunar conditions: vacuum, extreme temperatures, radiation exposure. The bricks held up better than expected. Here's why this matters. Every kilogram of construction material shipped from Earth to the moon costs roughly $10,000. A small habitat might need hundreds of tons of material. That's billions of dollars just in shipping. But if you can print structures using local soil, the cost drops to almost nothing. The printing process uses focused sunlight or microwaves to melt lunar regolith, then layers it like a giant 3D printer building walls. No water needed, no complex chemistry, just heat, pressure, and the raw material sitting everywhere on the lunar surface. China's tests showed the printed bricks are stronger than concrete, resistant to temperature swings from -173 to +127 degrees Celsius, and naturally shield against cosmic radiation because they're made from the same material that's been blocking radiation for billions of years. They're planning to send a small-scale 3D printer on Chang'e 8 to test the technology on the actual moon. If it works, future missions will carry larger printers capable of constructing entire buildings autonomously before humans arrive. The strategic advantage is enormous. While other countries are still designing habitats to ship from Earth, China could be printing bases on site using robots. First permanent lunar structures will probably have "Made in China" stamped on them, except they'll be made on the moon from moon rocks.
Still curious? Then don't stop now. The next mystery is already waiting for you. Just click the video on screen. I saved it just for you. See you there, curious one.